In the time before the Titans, before the gods of Olympus, a great battle was waged.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my God of War Ascension Titan difficulty video walkthrough. This is the video I'm sure most of you have come to see. This is the Trial of Archimedes, and it's a tough sequence in this game. It is the toughest sequence in it. But a lot of people are exaggerating the difficulty here. A lot of people are struggling with it because they've gone through the majority of the game relying on probably mashing, probably not having too much strategy, probably not even blocking. And when you get to this section, you can't muscle your way through. You have to play a little bit more strategically than you normally would, because the game has coddled you all the way up to this point with health chests and plentiful checkpoints. This next sequence has neither. And that is why it's very prolific at this moment in time, because there is a noticeable spike in difficulty. The first phase of this fight puts you with two enemies which are both intimidating. One of them is a cream puff, the other one is actually very dangerous, and together they make for probably the most dangerous combination of enemies you've faced in the game. Don't get me wrong, is it impossible? No. Is it extremely difficult? Not really. Will it challenge you? Quite possibly. And if you're having trouble with it, this is what you're going to see quite a lot of. And I do think there should have been a checkpoint after the first fight, guys. I really do. And I sympathise with people that are suffering. But this game does not have the same the same level of difficulty that the older ones did. So this is the closest you're going to get to a really challenging moment, and for a player like myself, I enjoy the really challenging. You can't think of failing as, you can't think of dying as failing. Don't look at it as a waste of time. Think of it as a learning experience. You know, think of it as improving and getting your money's worth with your game. So if you stand here, when the Gorgons spawn, one of them will almost always stand in the fire, and I think the fire damages them. I'm not 100% sure. I like to think it does. And you'll notice she gets kind of stuck, so this can help you at the start of the fight. It doesn't have to go this way. It's not going to affect the strategy much. It's just nice to fight them one at a time. My strategy for the Gorgons is to freeze them, beat them up, and parry them. I use the clone of Orcos because it's incredibly powerful and it will attack enemies off screen for you. And you'll see the first Gorgon goes down very quickly, so go into the quick time event, make sure to duck and everything and all that good stuff, and get rid of the first one. As soon as she dies, another's going to take her place, and it's back with two Gorgons. You can block everything these do to you, except for the stare, which turns you to stone, and you can get shattered, so be very careful, and the grab that she does, which it does damage, which I don't agree with. It's very slight, but it's still damage, and the big problem is it's extremely difficult to avoid, because even if you roll, you can't block it, you can still get caught, and it does come off as a little bit cheap, but they've always had it, so you can't really complain, because it's something that we've put up with for a long time. Although if this was God of War 2, these Gorgons would be dead in seconds, because you could grab them, which would provoke them to stare at you, and then you could shatter them with their own stare, which I think is a significantly better system, but I've not really been able to shatter the Gorgons with their own stare, except for when you parry them and you do the grab attack. But you'll notice I'm using the clone of Orcos, I'm keeping my distance with the roll, I'm using my Plume of Prometheus to distance myself from the enemies, and I'm just being patient, not getting too aggressive, waiting for my spells to regenerate. I have an upgraded amulet, so it freezes both of them when they're close together, which is useful. Just you know, take your time. You can literally just spam that at this point. I would normally be more aggressive to try and get parries, to try and kill them quicker, but I'm trying to do this a little bit more methodically than I normally would, just to help the most amount of people. So here comes the second death of a Gorgon. Once this one dies, I think when the next Gorgon turns up, I think the sirens turn up. We'll soon find out. And if you do get stuck here, you're going to get used to this fight, because this is the first one and this is the toughest one. But you'll notice she gave me blue orbs, and blue orbs do refill magic, so you might be able to use magic on this sequence and still get it back if you want to. but it's entirely up to you. This is when it gets difficult, and you have a choice here. You can either roll around the entire area, stunning them with the amulet, and then sending the clone to attack them to try and stay safe and get through this with the maximum amount of life possible. Or you can spam magic, which is an equally good technique, which you're going to see me do. Or you can fight them if you're comfortable with fighting them, however you fought them during the game. I just think that the ground electricity move is so cheap and so prevalent in this fight. Do you see that just then? She fell off the platform, but she came back. Which should be interesting, because if that did kill her and that was another siren respawning, which I don't think it was, I think it was the same one, you would be able to knock them off the edge, which would save you some serious grief. And right now my clone's been turned to stone, if you're wondering why he's not doing anything over there, which is... I don't know if it's a glitch, I don't know what it is, but it just looks really strange. He's kind of just chilling out and not really helping, but I'll call him again and he'll do some work for me. Here's me freezing some enemies, doing a couple of light attacks, taking some unnecessary damage. There's a magic attack. I'm using the fire magic attack because you have access to it regardless of your upgrades, and I haven't invested any points in the other stuff. A technique you've not seen me do here, which I did a lot on hard. If you parry the Gorgons, you can grab them and turn the enemies in the room to stone. That is a very valid way of killing the other sirens, if you can get enough attacks off to shatter them. So definitely experiment with that if you're having trouble, but at this point I was having so much success with the clone that I really didn't need to mess around with the parries, and parrying the Gorgons is not difficult to do at all. If you've watched this guide so far, you've seen me do it a lot, and if you've done it a lot yourself, you'll probably be comfortable. There was a siren dying just then from the clone alone, which rhymes, unfortunately, but it also should give you faith that the clone is so powerful. Here's the obligatory face stomp, which is very satisfying because they are absolute bastards of enemies, and now that it's just one of them, we can freeze her and use the clone and beat her up. And if you bounce her, Plume of Prometheus until she's dead. Nothing she can do. And at this point, it's effectively over. You've done the hardest part. If you've got a lot of life, you should be quite comfortable with the next stages. That doesn't mean you can't die, and that doesn't mean that you can't get unlucky, because ooh, do you see that just then? That is real bad news. Should not have took that damage at all, and it took like one fifth of my life, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in an endurance fight, every little can help. With that same logic, though, you do not need high life to win, guys. If you have a sliver of life and you play really well, you will still beat it. You just have to have confidence, and you have to just know how to fight, know when you're safe, and know when to attack. Because this run you're watching, this run is far from perfect. I make so many mistakes, and I still get through it, which should give you the best confidence boost you can physically get. Also, this lady, if you get lucky with this Amazon chick, she can fall off. I wouldn't try, intentionally trying to do that, going out of your way, because you might take damage. All I'm going to do here is block. Block until they're not glowing to attack, and then I'm going to summon the clone. I'm going to wait, I'm going to bide my time. Just relax, you cannot be damaged. If you have your block up, you are safe. And she telegraphs her attacks by glowing. The birds telegraph their attacks by glowing red. And you can get cheeky hits in between, but I just didn't want to risk it, so I'm just going to wait for the clone to do something, even though he's gone all shitty there for some reason. I don't know what he's doing, he's just watching me get gangbanged. But there is the slow-mo. You'll notice it had an effect on every single enemy because they're so close. I didn't do any attacks then because I wasn't expecting it, but I've done it now and I've learned. So I know if I use that again, I can get an opportunity, a window to attack. And I move out of that wall because I wasn't comfortable. And the clone should be back, so there's the clone. Just sent him out. I believe I sent him out. I think he's beating up the one you can't see. And they're all off camera now, so they are kind of pacified, but they will still attack. There's the throw. Yeah, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying for the harpies to come in front, so when the harpies are in front, I can just throw them into the enemies to try and kill them, and I can use the clone to occupy the Amazonian ladies. See that? He just killed that Amazonian lady. How quick was that? Watch the video where I'm on, I think it's Apollo's foot, and I fight an Amazonian lady for about 2 years, and she doesn't die. And I did not even attack her once. The clone did all the work. So powerful, guys. I can't even stress enough of its function. It is just so efficient. It's great. So, there's going to be a couple of harpies that'll spawn. This is when it gets a little annoying, but you can stand in between these mouths, and it won't touch the fire. So I just wait here for the next enemy to spawn. It does take a while because the scripting on this section is a little bit glitchy at times. So here's the next harpy, and that was me pressing circle to grab. Like I say, old habits die very, very hard. I'm not going to mess about with the throws while I'm near the fire, because the fire does a lot of damage and Kratos does move during animations and you will move into the fire, so just wait for it to leave. And here comes the hammer guy. So the strategy on this guy is to freeze him with the amulet, use the clone, space as well as you can from him. The fire does damage him. When he does that, you can't be close to him. This is the only move that can hurt you. And he's going to spam it, and he's going to try and get close to you, and he's going to try and spam it. So you want to freeze him if you can. And that right there was him coming out of the crazy mode. There's me freezing him and trying to get some punches in, but I'm terrified of the fire because I don't want to lose any unnecessary life. So he's frozen to get a few hits in. I'm standing up here because the fire's about to be up this top end, and I don't want to get pushed into it. So there's the clone again. I've got the ability to freeze back again, but it didn't work. He's pinning me in the corner a little bit now, and the fire is getting close. This is when it gets a little bit tense, but he's just powered down. He can't hurt you now if you block. You're perfectly fine. He can push you though. That move will push you into the fire, and he's done that to me before. So you'll notice, because he's pushed me into the fire previously, I use the magic. That makes him so that he's killable, and this wave is over. Do not mess up on the quick time. You just don't want to do that. It's going to ruin your run. It's not the end of the world, but it's unnecessary, and any unnecessary damage makes this harder than it should be. So 2 waves down, the next wave is easy. If you have my life or anything, even if you have a slither of life, the next wave is not too bad. The only time you'll take damage is if you get careless, and I do get careless a lot because that's just who I am. But the first wave is a centaur on his own. So space away from him and wait for him to charge at you. Do not attack him or you might mess up the quick time event. He will eventually run at you once he's finished taunting and being an idiot like he just did then. So I freeze him, I send the clone, and he swipes. If his staff glows, it's unblockable and it will go through your block. That's the only thing you have to watch. That move there, that would have hurt me. So be careful. There's the charge. I froze him mid-charge for some reason. And there it is. He's dead. Once this guy dies, he's going to either give you life or magic. Either way, it's going to help you on the next wave. If you have magic, just use it. It'll kill them really quickly. If you get life, you're laughing. Because the next wave is a bunch of wraiths. And all you have to remember, even if you're nervous, even if this is, getting to that really breathless moment, you can block every move these enemies do. Every single move can be blocked. You have the clone. It's ridiculously powerful. And, just take your time. Don't panic. Don't get hit by those scythes like I just did, like an idiot. Just pick your shots, get hit again by the other guy, freeze one, beat the other one up. Be careful of the floor. I don't know if it damages you, but I don't trust it at all. There's the clone. He's going to go out there. That one's dead. Grab him. Do the grab animation, see what you get. There's more blue. I could probably use magic at this point. I can't quite tell on the screen. There's the freeze, there's a couple of combos. Block to stop the other guy getting you. Block again. You just watch them, they can't hurt you. The only time they can hurt you is when you let them. And as soon as you realise that, it's empowering because you're safe. And I made a mistake then, and it barely did any damage, which tells you that if you get... Oh, that did a lot of damage just then. That was quite risky. Sloppy though too. So there goes the clone. I've now got enough magic to finish this guy if I need to, but he's already dead. And once the last guy dies, all the scenery will go back to normal, and you have passed the Trial of Archimedes. The thing that all the reviewers were complaining about, the thing that the devs are going to patch because everybody said was too difficult. You've just beat it. It wasn't as hard as they said it was, and you did it like a man. You got through it. You didn't complaining and get it patched and all the other silly things. And was it really that bad? I don't think it was. You know, that was my second attempt. If that was Titan or Chaos Mode from the older games, that would have been really hard, because you would have died in 2 to 3 hits, and you would have not been able to make as many mistakes as I just did and get through it quite comfortably. But, you know, people are afraid of challenge. They really are. It's almost like we're turning into this pussified version of ourselves. You know, when were gamers ever afraid of challenge? I don't get that. It seems like an oxymoron to me. It's a contradiction of terms. But all that's left to be done here is a slight puzzle that involves spinning this crazy looking gyroscopic prison thing and then going into the next room. And then from that moment onwards is the last boss fight. And the last boss fight is tricky in a few instances, but for the most it's very simple. If you can do the Trial of Archimedes, you have beat the game. You can get your hard trophy. You can beat it on Titan and get your bragging rights. You know, it's there for the taking. You've earned it. And you've now got these eyes that enable you to move those barriers, which are an interesting concept, but they're not going to change your life. But if that doesn't happen when you go through the door, you've done it wrong. Because I got stuck on that section because I kept twisting it, but I was twisting it the wrong way, like a clown. And I don't know why I got stuck. It's the simplest of puzzles. It's just I thought I'd already done it, so I think I was messing about in this room more than I was messing about in the previous room, and it just didn't click that I was doing it wrong. So if you don't get that cutscene, it just means that you've not done what the game wants you to do. And once it's done, we can then progress forward. We can get the chests, rekindle his life, and see this machine turn and do all this crazy stuff. This turns into an elevator, and we can finally face the Furies. And I do believe that this is the end of the level. There's me checking the corners. There's some magic which I don't need. I'm going to grab it anyway, because why not? Actually, I did need it. I couldn't tell. Yeah, I don't like those magic bars. I preferred the long bar. I understand why they've changed it, because it tells you whether or not you can definitely use magic. But at the same time, I just enjoyed the bars. I really did. But open this door, and welcome to the end of the game. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.